and full disclosure. I'm going to read the warrant. Pursuant to the within warrant, I have notified and warned the inhabitants of the town of Southampton by posting an attested copy at the Southampton Town Hall and 5 or more other places designated for the posting of such notices 14 days before holding said meeting. Constable Michael Goyette, date posted September 30, 2016. To the Constable of the Town of Southampton, said county, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby required to notify and warn the inhabitants of the Town of Southampton qualified to vote on town affairs to meet William E. Norris Elementary School located at 34 Pomeroy Meadow Road in said Southampton on Tuesday, October 18th of next at 7 in the evening, then and there to act on the following articles. Our town meeting is a business meeting of Southampton. Our legislative session called pursuant to a warrant that lists the only topics on which our meeting may actually take action tonight. This town meeting will be taped by Community Access Commercial Free TV, Easthampton Media, our channel 191. It is scheduled to be broadcast tomorrow evening, plus a few more evenings after, at 5 p.m. Thank you, Easthampton Media, channel 191. Deputy Moderator, I wish to publicly thank Carl Keener for being in his second successful year as Southampton's Deputy Moderator. The warrant. I hosted an annual pre-town meeting preview on our town's cable access station in our town hall Thursday evening. The sponsor of each article was invited, and we gave each as much time as he wants to explain what it is they are asking you voters to do, whether spending money, changing bylaws, or whatever. It's worked well, and the investment of time makes our actual town meeting go much smoother from the voters' perspective. As moderator, it also serves to put me on notice as to where to expect debate. It also serves to awaken us as to where to expect amendments to the motions. Everyone at home, live or watching reruns on Channel 191 and looking up the video on Easthampton Media's website is educated to the content of the warrant articles themselves. Efficiency in the meeting is indeed important and is one of my duties as your town moderator. My role as your moderator is to facilitate, to provide an open process that our voters trust, and to administer rules and guidelines in an even-handed manner, not to assure any particular outcome. My responsibility tonight is to be as fair and considerate as I possibly can. Your responsibility tonight is to be the legislative branch of our town government for tonight's articles. The Select Board, Finance Committee, the Town Administrator have worked hard for the last several months forming these articles that you'll be voting on this evening. Tonight, you exercise your democracy, freedom of speech. You have all one equal vote, a single choice, yes or no. Ground rules, courtesies, guidelines. I believe the important thing is to set the ground rules early, then stick with them. Town meeting is the legislature and subject to its own rules within the Commonwealth laws. Town meeting works if you want it to work, not for you alone, but for the whole community. Rights to speak. The plan tonight is for you to speak no more than 5 minutes at a time and no more than twice on any article, except to correct an error or answer a question. I will allow anyone who previously spoke to address the meeting again, but it has to be a new point or rebuttal, no repetition. Speaking and participating at a town meeting is a right, but like all rights, it should not be abused or denied. I hope every dedicated voter who gave her or his confidence to put me in office as I serve the town. So if your inexperience here holds you back, allow me to walk you through the process this evening. I continue to make all the procedures clear to everyone. This has led to a much smoother running town meeting and more knowledgeable voters who are pretty consistent, well-informed, and ask good questions. Before you vote yes or no, you individually are free to question. to amend and to table any motion, that is to legislate, all in a civilized way. No comments of a personal nature, no naming of names are to be made. Rude behavior, especially shouting, bullying, lecturing, and personal attacks will not be tolerated. Anyone unwilling to comply with these rules will be removed after their third warning. So let this be our first warning. Ready to contribute something new? Please approach the microphone up front and stand in line to be recognized in turn. First come, first heard. State your name and address clearly. All discussions must be relevant to the particular motion before us, the merits or lack thereof for the motion. Please face me, your town moderator, with your opinions, questions, and answers. This is meant to prevent lecturing, bullying, intimidation, and cross-examinations. I will only recognize speakers standing at the microphone unless it is a point of order. Simply because someone states something does not make it true. When a majority leans towards approving or denying, does not make it right by itself. Listen courteously and then vote exactly as you think right. Move the order of the articles. In my experience, if there is a clearly stated and logical reason to move an article to an earlier position for consideration, there will be no objection. Yet I ask if there is objection. If there is objection voiced, we will then await a motion to see if it secures the vote required. Any motions to move any of the articles? Okay. Outside speakers, without objection, this non-voter with an interest or expertise will be permitted to speak in the meeting. Roy Bishop. Thank you. And thank you for your patience in respecting everyone tonight. These guidelines will assist us in a more efficient meeting. May I hear a motion for Article 1, please?
Mr. Moderator, Charlie Konecki, 146 Valley Road. I move the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to have the option to negotiate and enter into contractual payments in lieu of taxes for this pilot program agreement with CG Southampton Energy Development, LLC, for a proposed approximately 2 megawatt capacity commercial solar energy project to be sited on leased farmland located at 141 Valley Road and Old County Road.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Who will speak on this article? Mr. Bishop.
Good evening. My name is Roy Bishop. I am a
Just
valuation consultant.
your address also.
I live at 263 Kibbe Road in East Longmeadow.
Thank you.
I've been asked quickly to explain what a pilot is. There's a provision in law for energy development companies to even out their tax payments, not necessarily get a tax break, over a 20 or 30-year period because of the high capital costs of creating energy development.
Just give that mic a little twist.
Sure.
Yep.
The
Thank you.
advantage for the energy company is a known expense stream as they shop for their investors in their project. The advantage to the town of Southampton is at present the taxation issues surrounding commercial solar developments are extremely murky. There's a number of litigations that have been ongoing and resolved that have further muddied the waters. And instead of getting involved in an effort of full and fair cash valuation like all the other properties in town, every community but one that I'm aware of has opted for a payment in lieu of tax or tax agreement program in order to forestall the possible litigation from full and fair cash valuation, and then if that is successful, the ongoing expense of having to value what is essentially a very unique real estate property.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody here who would like to speak in opposition to the motion under this article? Does anyone have any questions? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Better? Not well. Okay, not well. All right, I'll speak into the ice cream cone like I tell everybody to.
Mike Bueller, 88 High. I would just appreciate a comment from a member of the
Select Board.
Okay.
Who sponsored this article.
Who on the select board would like to address this, please? Is this better back there? Yeah? Okay, good.
Charlie Konecki, can you hear me?
Yes? I see them
Basically,
nodding.
yeah, of course, yeah. The assessor's office came to the Board of Selectmen, advised us that this was going forward. At this point in time, all this article does is authorize the selectmen to take and negotiate a contract if this becomes available to the town. It's a way of increasing revenue to the town, and the Board of Selectmen's in favor of it.
Thank you. That answer your question? Good. Anyone else? Seeing none, we're going to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 1, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion on Article 1 passes unanimously. May I hear a motion on Article 2, please?
John Martin, 106 Clark Street. Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to allow the Select Board to enter into a 5-year contract to provide uniforms to the Highway Department.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Who would like to address this?
Hi. Heather Berdraywitz, Town Administrator.
Address,
Oh, address? South Hadley, Massachusetts.
street address, everybody gives.
30 Canal Street.
Thank you.
Okay. So what this article is simply to allow the Select Board to enter into a contract that exceeds the term of 3 years. Generally, under Mass General laws, we can enter into 3-year contracts through the Select Board on behalf of the town. And in this case, we'd like to potentially pursue an option of entering into a 5-year contract in order to get a better rate for uniforms to the Highway Department.
Thank you. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this motion on Article 2? Seeing none, any questions? Yes, sir.
Gary Swanson, 72A East Street. I think the idea of entering into a 5-year contract for uniforms for the Highway Department is absurd, and I see no reason why the town should vote for it.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak on the motion under this article?
John Martin, 106 Clark Street. This is a 5-year contract, so we get the best pricing, but we can get out of it if performance is poor. So it doesn't bind us into having a vendor with poor performance. In the procurement field, we do it all the time. So it's just a wise way to spend our money and get the best price.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 2, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion on Article 2 passes by majority. May I hear a motion for Article 3, please?
Mr. Moderator, James Labrie, 66 Gun Road, Southampton. Move the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to negotiate into up to 10-year lease with Robert Fletcher for the Zipta Farm, land for the use and maintenance of the Zipta Conservation Farm located at Glendale Road.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this? And by the way, when the motions are being read, even though you have the motion here, this is not set in stone. There's a little wiggle room, so every now and then you'll find a different word, but the concept is to stay under the umbrella of the article. Yes, please.
All right, so town meeting approval is required for the town in order to enter into an agreement or lease that exceeds 3 years. So this is very similar in that way to the past article. In this case, what they're asking for is over the past 20 years or so, the town, through the Board of Selectmen and the Concom, have entered into a lease with the Fletchers in order to maintain the property that is known as the Zipta farmland, a certain number of acres. Annually, they pay a small fee, and they also maintain the property and take care of it. In this case, the Concom and the Select Board would be interested in increasing the term of the lease from 3 years up to the number of 10 years at a time. This has been something that's been continually going on for a period of time, and it's the belief that if there's a longer term of the lease, more additional resources would be committed to the property by the Fletchers.
Thank you. Anyone like to speak in opposition to the motion under this article? Any questions? Come right up to the mic.
I'm not necessarily in opposition to this article,
Name,
but I,
name and address.
oh, I'm sorry, Gail Santoro, 83 Pleasant Street in Southampton. Not necessarily in opposition to this article, but I have a big concern about the timing of when this property is maintained and mowed. For the last year or so, we've had just wipe out of nesting birds at the Zipta farm because the information wasn't given to Mr. Fletcher in time, I think, to allow him to avoid that. So I'd like to table this motion until we can get a stipulation in there that we don't destroy the nesting birds. In discussions with Mr. Fletcher, he seemed very amenable in the past to doing that, but I think it needs to be part of the contract to ensure that we don't disturb these nesting birds. So I would make a motion to table it or modify it, perhaps modify it to include.
Well, that's two different things.
Okay.
Motion to table is to kill it.
Okay,
Just
well, let's
to
not,
rip it up
no, let's
and-
not kill it then.
and
Let's, a motion to modify
Motion
it.
to amend it is something different.
All right, a
So
motion
you
to amend
motion to amend, and I would need it in writing and 2 copies. One for myself so I can read it
Now you need it?
now. And the second one to go to the town clerk.
Will you give me a minute to write it then?
Sorry?
Do I take a minute to write it? Do you want me to stand here and write it?
You got to start writing. Get a pen and start writing.
All right, so may I sit and just
Go,
write
go,
it?
go,
Okay.
go. We have a proposed amendment, so we're going to wait until the amendment is there because that person has the floor. Once an amendment is made, we will talk about that amendment, we will vote on that amendment, and then we will vote on the motion under the article. The amendment passes, the amendment is then integrated into the motion under the article. If it doesn't, the motion is as read, and that's what we'll be discussing before we vote. So just bear with us for a minute or so. So anyone who may want an amendment, sort of a heads up, we need it in 2 copies. The town clerk needs one for the records for the Attorney General, and the moderator needs one to read it word for word and not from memory. Something where we be changing a word or something really small, we don't need that in writing. But when there is a sort of a 90-degree right turn amendment, we certainly do. For years ago, we were coordinating the Women's Club and the Mothers Club, and we were embarrassed as a town that we held town meetings on their meeting nights, and I knew that was resolved, and apparently we got away from it. So tonight, we're meeting not only on a Mothers Club night and a Women's Club night, but their annual well-advertised joint meeting, which they all look forward to. And the women are movers and shakers in the town. They do a lot of work for those in need and school children and scholarships. So I would really implore Town Hall, consider a quick phone call to the Mothers Club and to the Women's Club to make sure this doesn't happen again. And I see some of you in the audience, and I know you're missing out, and I thank you for being here and, you know, putting your civic duty ahead. Much appreciated. So it's the original motion with the stipulation that the spring mowing will happen after the nesting birds have left. You didn't specify which birds or which ones you're protecting?
I can't even tell you. I don't know
We,
if they
we,
kestrels.
I would need from you a week specific. This is too vague.
Like a species? You want a
No,
bird species?
A particular week of a month.
Well, I think it varies every year. Okay, ground nesting birds, it should say then. Thank you. The person who usually does this is not here, but I didn't want it to be overlooked.
Okay, we're going to vote on we're going to discuss the motion. Do you want to talk? We have a motion. Do we have a second for that motion? Motion made, amendment, second. Speak on your proposed amendment, please.
Yeah, I apologize for my lack of preparation. I expected someone to be here that's
No,
very
no,
active in the bird community.
Speak.
But the idea is, and I think it's not a problem, to delay that haying and mowing of that property a week or two to allow those birds to take flight, rather than mowing down nests of eggs and nestlings. So that's the only purpose. I have no problem with, maintaining this property. I think Mr. Fletcher does a fine job of doing that, but I'd like the timing to make these ground nesting birds have a chance at life here.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Moderator, Charlie Konecki, 146 Valley Road. I'm against the modification on the article because the article's substance is basically to allow the Board of Selectmen to enter negotiations with a contract. During those contract negotiations, we can fine-tune this language to address the concerns. But at this juncture right now, in front of town meeting, all we're doing is authorizing the selectmen to enter negotiation.
That is
It's
true.
the contract that we need to modify, not the article here.
I agree. You're nodding your head, not you, Charlie. Do you agree?
Part of the contract, and somehow it fell out.
Do you want to withdraw your amendment? We're speaking on the amendment. Okay.
Okay. Marla Hank, Chairperson of the Conservation Commission.
A little closer.
I agree with Charlie Konecki in that there are details in the license itself that talk about fertilizer, mowing schedule, and that is a separate issue than having a 10-year license. Normally, we would be discussing it at the Conservation Commission meeting with Mr. Fletcher and/or with the Select Board members. This is only about the 10-year license so that the Fletcher family knows that they can make the considerable investment of their time and money and then benefit from that investment, as will the town.
Okay.
That being said, I'll withdraw the amendment.
Okay, withdraw the amendment. Thank you.
Robert Fletcher, 22 Gun Road. I am the person who has been maintaining the land for about the last 20 years. As far as the nesting of the birds, with sympathy to the bird lovers in the room, there is a significant portion of this property that is not accessed by any of our machines during any of the season due to the nature of the land. My feeling is that there is enough to go around on the ZIPTA property. The land that we're maintaining, there is frequency of nesting birds along the waterways. I don't really see a lot of it in the fields that we're haying, but in the very back of this property where nobody tends to go, more of this property is actually open to the birds for a full nesting season that will allow us to do what we do in a timely fashion and allow the birds to have what they need without being disturbed. We're not asking to rip up the birds' habitat here. We're trying to get along with everybody. We are investing a significant amount of our time and money over at the Zipta property, and all we're asking for is a little bit longer term, and that's about it.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 3, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 3 passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 4, please?
Jackie Sears,
accept the
8 Kuchar Road,
She
Southampton.
withdrew it.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to amend the general bylaws of the town of Southampton by adding Section 39, fire hydrant use, as written below.
I hear a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Please speak.
Heather Bridgewitz, Town Administrator. So water hydrant bylaw, the purpose of the bylaw amendment is, or the bylaw is to clarify the authority which shall allow access to the town's public water supply. There's been some concern over the past that unauthorized users were actually utilizing the water hydrants to fill up for whatever their purpose was, but they did not have prior permission from the water department or anyone else, and the concern is that, we can't have our water supply going down or unauthorized access to the water hydrants. So as many other communities have done, the water commissioners have put forward a bylaw to establish a regulation that would restrict people from just using the water hydrant at their will.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak in opposition for the motion on Article 4? Anyone have any questions? Any more comments? Seeing none, we're going to vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 4, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. If you want to speak, you go to the microphone. As I said, no, we voted. It's too late. No, you just walk up. I read that very clearly right at the beginning. If you want to know the regulations and the guidelines, please come on time. We'll do this vote again. All those favor of the motion on Article 4, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. No, it's not enough money. Passes by majority. Motion on Article 4. May I hear a motion on Article 5, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to amend the general bylaws of the town of Southampton by addition section, 15, non-criminal ticketing, as written in the attachments.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this, please?
Heather Bridgewitz, Town Administrator. So non-criminal ticketing bylaw, how this came about, Select Board had been having numerous conversations with many of the department heads. We have a lot of fines and citations that can be written as in accordance with our current general bylaws. The problem is that things such as, for instance, dog citation has to be issued currently by the police department. It has to be processed through the criminal court system, as opposed to going this direction where you decriminalize the fines and so forth, or at least allow the option that the person who is issuing the fine or citation can do so as a simple fine or non-criminal piece, so that the person, all they would have to do is when they receive such a citation, they go to the town clerk's office and they can pay it there. And as long as they do so within a certain period of time, it stays out of the criminal system altogether. This does not restrict the ability of the person who's issuing it to simply go the same way they've always done. They just give them, this gives them another opportunity or another avenue to do so. Current bylaws that require enforcement in order for residents to enjoy the quality of life have not been enforced often due to the cumbersome process that requires town officials to bring violations to court for offenses that can be handled through non-criminal ticketing. And the language for the non-criminal ticketing is in Attachment A. As I previously stated, if you go through the entire set of general bylaws, you will actually see there's numerous times where there's a fine or a citation that comes up. We simply extracted all of those pieces and put them in the list of the non-criminal ticketing pieces, including the fines. The fines there are cited exactly as they are currently in the bylaw. To change the amount of those fines, you'd have to go back and amend the bylaw. You will also see that the water hydrant piece is included in the non-criminal ticketing bylaw that we just voted on. We would have had to remove it if it hadn't been approved. but since it had, it is included. The language for how this bylaw came about was actually something that was submitted or published rather by the state back in the 1990s, and a lot of communities have since adopted the language almost verbatim as they had it in their original template document.
Thank you. Does anybody like to speak in opposition? Any questions, any comments? And to review, I stated earlier, I will not address anyone sitting down in their seat unless it's a point of order. You wish to speak, as this gentleman is here, just come in line at the mic. Thank you. Yes.
Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway. I don't know if this was addressed, Mr. Moderator, at your discussion meeting, but is there a form that we can use? I don't see anything written in here, just that there a written notice for the clerk of district. I'm questioning this because several people here in town, like myself, has land that's used as a dumping ground for litter or prone to theft. I want to know, do I have the right to just hand this to the people that have found that have done this to my yard?
Who would like to answer that question? Charlie Kinnicky, Chair of the Select Board.
Mr. Moderator, in a past life, I used to issue non-criminal ticketing, amongst other things. Non-criminal.
Yeah, that sounds not true. We have weak speakers, so we have ice cream
In
cone.
a previous life, I used to issue non-criminal ticketing in a number of different communities. Non-criminal ticketing is not issued by the property owner. It's issued by the enforcement officer of the town. It could be the police department. It could be your building inspector. It could be your board of health, so on and so forth. It's not done by the property owner that's been violated. That's a civil action between parties.
Thank you. Answer your question? No. Okay. You asked if there was a form. Somebody here? Okay. Just kindly repeat.
Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway. When we've reported it to the police.
Oh, no, we're not we're talking
sorry.
about the merits or lack thereof of this motion.
So if it's been addressed to the police department and nothing's been done, then what do we do?
Mr. Moderator, we're getting off topic, but the simple answer is it's a civil action between the property owner and the person violating their property.
Thank you.
If the police department cannot find any criminal action.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, Gary Thomas, 7 East Street, Southampton. Just a question, and it may have been addressed in a general way. Who, other than the police department, specifically, what officials in the town are going to be given the authority to issue these non-criminal citations?
Thank you.
Heather Berdraywitz, Town Administrator. So the bylaw that's in the handout, which is handout A, on page 2 actually lists under section 6, you get into, it tells you the violation, who can do the enforcement based on the bylaw as written, and what the fine is. So an example would be, for instance, I think it's the third one down, says dogs at large. It tells you what bylaw it's referring to. So in this case, Article 15, and it tells you who can enforce it. So under this bylaw, Article 15 for dogs at large, the animal control officer can enforce it, and so can't the police department, and they can issue a fine for up to $20 per offense. So you see the same thing down throughout here. Generally, it's the police department on a lot of things, but it depends on what it is and what the general bylaw actually states. So for instance, 4 from the bottom says swimming pools, which is Article 9, and that can be enforced by the building commissioner, $5 per day. But one thing to keep in mind, under Section 6, it does read, non-criminal disposition may be applied to the following bylaws, rules, regs, enforced by the authorized personnel indicated, parentheses, with the police department to be considered an enforcement authority in all cases, even if not specifically noted. So even if it's something here that doesn't say police department, the police department can issue a citation. In response to the earlier question about is there a form that's used, generally what happens is a municipality would purchase general citation forms that you have to give triplicate copy and so forth, and those are used as a standardized process to move forward with these.
Okay. Thank you.
Francine Tishman, 83 Glendale Road.
A little closer to the
Okay.
mic, yeah.
Francine Tishman, 83 Glendale Road.
Thank you.
Just looking at Article 4 that just was approved and this rate and the schedule of fines, there's just an inconsistency here that I would like to point out and get clarified. It says that the penalty for unauthorized opening of a hydrant is not to exceed $200 per offense, and in the rate schedule it says $200 per offense. Is it 200 or is it less than 200?
Thank you for your question.
They're both the same thing. I think they're taking different contexts, but not to exceed 200, so no more than 200.
Thank
So
you.
200.00.
200 is the maximum. Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we're going to vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 5, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Passes by majority. May I have a motion for Article 6, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to transfer the amount of $37,776 to the Greenway Committee to fund the legal, engineering, and other costs relative to the acquisition of the Greenway project. Said sum shall be taken from the Community Preservation Surcharges undesignated account.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to address this, please?
Well, Virginia Ahart, 27 Fulmer Road, Chair of Community Preservation. I'll give a general answer, but if you have some specific questions, I will defer to Michael Bueller. Basically what happened when we began this whole project, the town had received a grant from the state for the Greenway, and community preservation funds were used to fund the work that they needed to do, appraisals, lawyers, and all this sort of thing. But it was contingent upon them having the grant. Well, the railroad dragged on, and the state asked for the grant back. And now the Greenway Committee is meeting again with the railroad people, but they have no funds because it was contingent on the grant, which they had to give back.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak in opposition on this motion? Anybody have any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion under Article 6, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please signify by saying nay. It passes by majority. Ms. Ahart, would you like to read the motion for Article 7, please?
Move the town vote to transfer the amount of $8,400 to the Historic Commission to fund the restoration of the town clock. Said sums shall be taken from Community Preservation Historic Preservation account.
Motion made. Who would like to second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Would you like to speak on this, please?
I would like to defer to Doric Dodds
All right.
on this one.
I understand he's right behind you. Yes, sir.
Doric Dodds, 48 High Street. Tonight's request for funds is meant for finishing...
Dark, a little closer to the, it's like an ice cream cone. Yeah, good.
Hello.
There we go.
All right. Tonight's request for funds is meant for finishing the project that was begun in 1989, at which time I took over the town clock's maintenance on a voluntary basis. That year, the town committee held a fund drive which generated enough donations to get the clock running again. But there wasn't enough to complete the project, and with the benefit of CPA funds, which we now have access to, I intend to finish that job, the most visible part of which would be the repair or replacement of the hands on the north dial, which you may have noticed is a little bare at the moment. And for those who don't already know, the clock belongs to the town, but is housed in the church by long-standing tradition.
Thank you. Anybody want to speak in opposition? Anybody have any questions? Seeing none, we will vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 7, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please indicate by saying nay. Motion under Article 7 passes unanimously. Ms. Ahart, would you like to read the motion for Article 8?
Move the town vote to transfer the amount of $1,000 to fund a wildlife interpretive sign in memory of Edward Need Jr. to be placed at the Zipka Farm Conservation Area. This will feature wildlife photographs taken by the late Edward Need Jr. The said sum shall be taken from Community Preservation Open Space Recreation account.
Thank you. Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I don't believe I've done this before, but I'm going to step down. Ed was my friend. Deputy Town Moderator, Kyle Keener.
You'll have to bear with me. This is my first, and I'm sure I'll make mistakes. Does anyone have anything to question or?
Mike Beeler, 88 High. I don't know if it matters, but there is a typo in line 2 of the article. The word paste should read placed.
Very good.
I could, if there are any questions or you want an explanation of what this would be, I am going to defer to Jackie Sears, who's been working on this.
Jackie Sears, 8 Kuchar Road, Southampton, Massachusetts.
Little closer to
sorry.
the mic, please.
Hi, Jackie Sears, 8 Kuchar Road, Southampton. I've been working with Marla Hank in the Conservation Commission on this memorial for Need for all his work that he did on the Zipka farm for wildlife. And we are using the funds from the CPA. This is a perfect example of the funds that the CPC offers the community if they would like to bring a project forward.
Thank you.
Robert Floyd, 15 East Street. Ed Need Jr. taught me so much. He resigned from the Conservation Commission to
Closer to the mic,
bring
please.
the moving wall to Easthampton. And he built the bluebird boxes, he took care of them, he checked as many vernal pools as he could. He was Mr. Conservation. He got killed by a bear riding a motorcycle to work, and I'm very, very moved by what he did. And he was the right-hand person for Hazel Young, a former chair of the Conservation Commission, and he carried her mission forward, and she was honored by the state. So I certainly do support this project.
Does anyone else have a question or anything to offer for this article? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor of Article 8, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All against, signify by saying nay. Article passes unanimously.
I don't think it's...
Number 9.
Motion to Article 9, please.
Mr. Moderator, move the town vote to transfer the sum of $8,258.22 to the workman's comp line. Said sum should be taken from the insurance general line.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Who would like to address this?
Heather Bedrowitz, Town Administrator. Mr. Moderator, this is a housekeeping matter. So what happens every year is we budget for workman's comp and general insurance, and we do them through the same insurance agency. Unfortunately, as everything happens, things change year to year. You get more workman's comp claims. Your insurance premiums go up, go down. We've never seemed to really get the right balance of the right two numbers here. But generally, at the end of the day, we match out correctly, so the two add up to the right number. We just don't usually do the split the way we would like to in the first place. So all this is simply is to transfer $8,258 from the insurance general line to the workman's comp line so that we are not holding a negative balance in the workman's comp line at this time.
Thank you. Who would like to speak in opposition? Who would like to offer their comments or questions?
Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street, Southampton, Chairman of the Finance Committee. We do recommend this article.
You do recommend, okay. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion on Article 9, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 10, please? By the way, it is illegal to stop a vote in progress to hear a comment, for the record. Who would like to speak?
Do you like a motion, Your?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please.
Okay, I was just...
Teamwork, teamwork.
Teamwork, I got it, Bob.
Reel me in, reel me in.
I'm being polite to you. All right, I move the town to vote to transfer the sum of $37,900 to the EMT standby line, and said sum shall be taken from the ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street, Southampton. The Finance Committee does recommend this article.
Okay, thank you.
Heather Bergeritz, Town Administrator. So for the FY17 budget, the EMT wages were calculated at $50 per night on call times 2 employees. After the annual town meeting, the board voted to continue paying at the higher rate of $100 per night on call times 2 employees. This modification requires twice the amount that was appropriated. At this rate of pay, the current line item will be depleted come the end of December 2016. The purpose of doing this was we were getting the ability to have more people who were available on call and were stepping up to the shifts when it was a higher rate of pay. That being the case, the select board decided to move forward continuing at that higher rate. And at this time, those funds would come from the account that is the ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation. The current balance for that account is $64,284.98 as of the time the warrant was written.
Thank you. Anyone to speak in opposition to the motion on Article 10? Any questions, comments? Seeing none, we will vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 10, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion passes by majority. May I hear a motion for Article 11, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to transfer the sum of $1,500 to the photocopier lease and supplies line. Said sums shall be taken from the operating stabilization fund.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, and by the way, this requires a 2/3 vote to pass. Who would like to address this?
Michael Rosenberg, Finance Committee. The Finance Committee did vote to recommend this article.
I did vote to recommend. Thank you.
Heather Bergeritz, Town Administrator. So in everyone's packet, Attachment B is actually a brief breakdown of this whole piece. So there was a contract that we had entered into with the new photocopier company after the warrant for the annual town meeting had closed. We had originally budgeted this line item in the amount of $3,000. The new company had to pay off the old printer, increasing the estimated annual cost for buyout. The old printer at the time had issues that we would have required a service contract to take care of. The service contract we had not entered into in the past year and a half. They would have required us to pay back to the beginning date. Up until that time, it would have cost us significantly more funding. And the prior copier would have only been on the books for another year or so, and then we would have had to enter into a new agreement for a higher amount at the same time. The photocopier lease and supplies line balance currently is $2,434. The additional funds we're looking for to go into this for paper and for the additional contract coverage of $500 more. Allocating additional funds to the line brings the balance to $4,500, having therefore sufficient funds rather for the copier and the paper purchases. And this is the amount we'll be budgeting the line for the next 2 fiscal years.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak in opposition to motion on Article 11?
Mike Bueller, 88 High. This is, I guess, my night to be picky. I'm doing the math here. I'm getting 2434 plus 1500 is 3934, not 4500.
Thank you.
Thanks. And the reason that is because that's the current balance as of today. The total amount we need to pay everything is $4,500. We've already been drawing from that account for both paper and for the photocopier contract. That's why it's drawn down to $2,434 as of the time of the publication of this warrant. But based on all the numbers and the calculations, if you look at the attachment B, it breaks it down so that the beginning of this fiscal year we budgeted $3,000. Another $1,500 added to the $3,000 brings us to $4,500 and covers all the costs.
Thank you. You're 2 for 2, Michael, so far. Thank you. Any questions, any comments? Seeing none, we're going to vote motion under Article 11. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. It passes unanimously, satisfying our 2/3 requirement. May I hear a motion for Article 12, please?
Mr. Moderator, move the town vote to transfer the sum of $5,000 to create a new select board consultant line. Said sums shall be taken from the operating stabilization.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. This requires a 2/3 vote.
Michael Rosenberg, Finance Committee. In October 2014, the Massachusetts
A little
Department
closer, Michael.
In October 2014, the Massachusetts Department of Revenue submitted to the Town of Southampton Select Board a formal review of the budget process. In that report, the DOR outlined steps and recommendations for the town to move forward from its vulnerable financial condition. One of the recommendations in the report was to move away from supplementing departmental budgets and operating expenses with stabilization fund transfers. If stabilization funds are to be used, they should be used for one-time capital projects or non-reoccurring expenditures. Therefore, we do not recommend this article.
Understand. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, this article was placed by the Board of Selectmen because we were in a classic catch-22 situation. When we were trying to negotiate to get a new police chief, we needed to hire a consultant, and we had no funding available to take and hire a consultant. We found that we had to do some management to try to get some funding. We now see that we're in a position where we're going to need to replace the town administrator. We never anticipated this, never put this in our budget, so therefore, in order for us to get a qualified individual, we still feel that through a screening committee, we need to have someone to assist them in this as a consultant. That's the reason for the article. We respect the Finance Committee's opinion and position in this. However, in this instance, I believe that we need to move this forward.
Thank you. Anybody would like to speak in opposition on this?
Dan Pellegrini, Crooked Ledge Road. It sounded like it's a need for a one-time to replace a one-time use to replace the town administrator. Why is it an ongoing line item? Why wouldn't it be just a one-time ask?
Thank you.
This is the second time in a year that the Board of Selectmen is being stung with needing a consultant to deal with issues like this. I suspect, given the pattern, this is going to continue for the next few years. That's the reason why we're looking to establish this as a permanent line item.
Okay.
What happens if we don't use the money? Where does it go?
Question? One answer?
The money should, after the town accountants are balanced out, should end up either in free cash or it could be transferred at the end of the year to shorten up another budget that's short.
Great.
But that would be through the Finance Committee, not...
Thank you.
Well, I've been wrong before.
Teamwork, teamwork.
Vicky Morrow, Town Accountant. Any funds that are transferred from...
Address. Your address.
114 Pomeroy Meadow Road. Any funds that are transferred from any stabilization accounts, or whether it be capital or operating, needs to go back to the particular funding source it came from if it's unused.
Understand. Does that answer your question? Okay, great. Thanks. Anybody else? Seeing none, we're going to vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 12, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. We need counters, please. Attorney General requires an exact number of yeas and nays to ensure 2/3 and not the moderator's ears. All those in favor of the motion on Article 12, please raise your cards, raise them high to be counted. Oh, the white. Raise your white cards.
$15. 23.
Those opposed, please raise your cards.
$16.
How much?
16.
16.
$9.
Put your hands down. It fails. May I hear a motion for Article 13, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to transfer the sum of $3,200 to the police chief salary line. Said sum shall be taken from the operating stabilization.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to address this, please?
Michael Rosenberg, Finance Committee. Article 13, based on the previous articles, recommendations that we gave, is not recommended. Just as a reminder, with these articles that come before us, we transfer one time from operating stabilization, but next year they will be needed to be funded through taxation. So you're taking money from your savings account and using it to pay for your mortgage, so reoccurring a cost that you'll have to pay for every year going forward. So just something to keep in mind with some of the articles going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Heather Berjowitz, Town Administrator. Just have to find my spot. I've already
13.
lost it.
13.
Oh, no. Police chief salary line. Okay, sorry. So the select board had negotiated a few months ago into a contract with the police chief, who I believe at the time of annual town meeting was still the interim police. No, I think they voted for the police chief. We just hadn't negotiated a contract at the time. When they negotiated the contract, as things always happen, numbers changed from what they had originally anticipated. The budget for FY17 was originally funded at $91,800. The negotiated contract, subject to appropriation, was in the amount of $95,000. So this $3,200 would add into the current funded FY17 budget and bring it to a total of $95,000, meeting the contract obligation that the select board signed up for. Again, it is subject to appropriation, but that is why this article's here.
Thank you. Anyone who want to speak in opposition? Any questions? Any comments? We're going to vote. 2/3 required. All those in favor of the motion on Article 13, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The counters, please. Please raise your hand, those in favor of this motion. Thank you. 21.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry, mine is 23. I didn't.
23 and 31. Okay, those opposed, please signify by raising your hands.
Two. 5.
The motion carries by 2/3 vote. Mayor, a motion for Article 14, please. Told you it was teamwork.
I can see that. All right. I move the town to vote to transfer the sum of $15,104 to the building commissioner's salary line, said sum to be taken from the operational stabilization.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to address this?
Michael Rosenberg, Finance Committee. As per the previous two articles and the reasoning outlined in the DOR report, we do not recommend this. This is a large transfer, especially when we just finished the budget a few months ago. If we were anticipating increasing individual salaries, it should have been something that we budgeted for, because going forward, this once again will become a reoccurring cost year after year.
Thank you.
Heather Bridgerts, Town Administrator. The building commissioner has met with the select board, and they've been in discussions for a while. One of the concerns is the building commissioner has consistently been working 40-plus hours per week since he was employed, and has been compensated at only 31 hours per week as a salary. Mind you, he was hired at 31 hours per week, but again, he's been consistently working about 40 hours per week since the beginning, whether it's weekends, holidays, nights, early mornings. The select board had talked to him about requesting at the special town meeting for an increase at the current hourly rate. So his current hourly rate from breakdown of his pay is $32.15 per hour for an additional 9 hours per week to put the position at 40 hours per week or $67,123 per year.
Thank you.
Michael Rosenberg, Finance Committee. I have a question, clarification. Now, is the building inspector, is he a salaried employee or is he an hourly employee?
Thank you. Who wants to answer that?
Heather Bridgerts, Town Administrator. He is a salaried employee. He was originally hired at 31 hours per week as a salary-based employee. And the consideration for this article is to increase his pay by 9 hours so that he is actually being compensated for the hours he's working at 40 hours per week.
Thank you. That answer your question?
So I am a salaried employee. I am a salaried employee for 40 hours per week. And many weeks I put in more than 40 hours, along with probably other individuals in this room who are salaried employees. Now, I personally, and this is probably more from me versus the Finance Committee, I don't pass judgment on his ability, what he's doing, what he's not doing, but this is something that should be done through a proper negotiation and proper budgeting format. This is a large increase to a salary that seemed to be suitable. I mean, we hire individuals to work within hours, and sometimes you have to go home even though you want to stay longer and work on it tomorrow because you are hired and you need to be mindful of, your own personal time. The increase here is also very large for someone who hasn't worked in the town for more than 2 years. I mean, there are many employees here who are probably deserving of such a raise. And is this a precedence we're looking to set, and is it going to be reciprocal to all the other employees in the town? If you're already working 40 hours and you make a certain dollar, Now you want to make more money for the same hours you've been working. You know, it just seems, it seems the wrong time to put the increase in at this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara LaFlamme, 20 Cook Road, Southampton. What I have in mind are more questions rather than pro or con. I can remember when this type of a position was based on an inspection fee that was generated from the builder who paid a certain amount, a set fee, just as we did with the gas inspections, the electrical inspections, and the plumbing inspections. Therefore, the inspector was compensated based on the number of inspections that they did. I'm not familiar with how it got to be a compensated hourly rate, but I think the old way was better. When there was an inspection that needed to be done, the builder or the contractor paid the fees and the inspector did the work. So it was really quite easy to understand. This is the amount of work, this is the fee.
Thank you.
Hi, Jennifer Roberge, 134 Brickyard Road. I just have a question. This seems almost like a 25% increase. Has the building, have we grown, or has our growth in our town increased at a 25% rate in the past couple of years since the new inspectors come in, or I'm just don't understand that.
Who would like to answer that question about the growth of Southampton in the last couple of years?
Michael Rosenberg, Finance Committee. New growth has been down over the past 2 years.
New growth has been down the past 2 years. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, we're going to vote. All those in favor of the article, motion under Article 14, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. We need counters. I need an exact figure. Counters, please. That's the law. I know. That's the law. All those in favor, raise your cards, please. We need an exact count when it isn't unanimous. Our interim town clerk, Eileen Kuchar, has taught me that through the years. And she's here tonight, so I can't.
5. 1.
Okay, all those opposed to the motion, raise your hands. And your cards.
$27.
27.
27.
27 and 27. The motion fails. May I hear a motion for Article 15, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to transfer the sum of $5,608 to the town accountant's salary line. Said sum shall be taken from the operating stabilization.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to address this, please?
Michael Rosenberg, Finance Committee. As per the previous articles, we do not recommend based on the DOR report.
Okay, thank you.
Heather Bedrowitz, Town Administrator. So this article is on here for a pay increase of about $3.58 per hour for 30 hours per week. That is the number of hours the accountant is currently working. The increase would make the salary annually up to $44,393. The town accountant salary line for FY17 was or is $38,785.20.
Thank you. Anybody want to speak on this, pro or con? Comments, questions? We're going to vote. Motion on Article 15. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. We need counters. Thank you. Please raise your cards. Those in favor of the motion under Article 15, please. Thank you. Hold them there.
Seven.
10.
9? I didn't hear you.
10.
10, sorry. Opposed? Give me your total number.
She has plus 2 more.
Okay, got it. All right. Opposed?
Twenty.
20.
20. Motion fails. Motion under Article 16, please.
Mr. Moderator, move the town vote to transfer the sum of $6,656 to create a new police admin wage line. Said sums shall be taken from the operating stabilization.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to address this?
Michael Rosenberg, Finance Committee. During this fiscal year's budgeting process, the idea of funding a police and fire admin was brought up and was sort of one of the goals for the process. It was determined at the end that we did not have the funds to fund that position. With all things being equal, that means we would not have the funds available to fund this position next year. So,
Thank you.
food for thought.
Not
Thank you.
Not recommended by the Finance Committee?
Not recommended.
Right.
Heather Bergerowitz, Town Administrator. So this is an article, as I think Mike stated a little bit, is a creation of the Police Department Administrative Assistant line item to fund and admin from January 1st to June 30th at 16 hours per week for 26 weeks at just under $16 an hour. Acknowledging what Mike had said, one of the reasons the Select Board, I believe, moved forward with putting this article on is in recognizing that this was one of their goals from the year past. Their idea is to, we don't really know what we're going to need between the police department and the fire department for an administrative assistant. They would like to ultimately find something to share, what have you. We haven't really had a dedicated person for administrative assistant in these positions in a very long time. When help has been needed in the past for the police department, we've been paying a police officer or dispatcher to stay over and actually pay them at their hourly rate to do administrative work. And currently our police chief and the lieutenant at a higher rate than what an administrative person would be paid are doing the work that generally can be handed to an administrative person who may not make as much down at $16 an hour. So one of the ideas of this is acknowledging that this is indeed going to become potentially an ongoing expense from year to year. This is kind of a way to do a pilot program to say, okay, from the months of January through June, how does this work? Is this working well? Do we need someone for more hours? Can we do less hours? When we do the budget season for next year, instead of taking a guess in the dark at how a position is going to work or how you're going to do an administrative assistant for both the fire and the police department, this is a way to say, okay, let's do a pilot program and see how it runs.
Thank you. Anybody want to speak in opposition to the motion on this article? Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. We'll vote on the motion on Article 16. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. We need a counters. Those in favor of the motion, please hold your cards up.
$13.
14.
Those opposed, please raise your hands.
14.
12.
Motion fails. May I have the motion for Article 17, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move to pass over.
All right, we're passing over the article. All those in favor? Opposed?
Do we need a second?
Paid, no, not for pass over. Although we have done that, but technically no. Thank you. Motion for Article 18, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town to vote to transfer the sum of $6,800 for consulting services related to the HVAC system for the library procurement processes, said sum to be taken from the operations stabilization. This is recommended by the Capital Committee.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
Michael Rosenberg, Finance Committee. As this is a one-time transfer, we do recommend.
Finance Committee recommends. Yes.
Heather Broderick, Town Administrator. So for those who may not remember, back in 2014, special or annual town meeting, there was actually, or I'm sorry, 2015, I want to say, annual town meeting, the Capital Improvement Committee had proposed an article for the HVAC system at the library in the amount of $47,000 to be funded from the capital expenses. At the time, that's what they had for quotes and information available to them to anticipate the cost of a full project that included the HVAC controls, an AC unit, a water heater, and a boiler. As time went on, it became very clear to everyone involved that this was going to be a project to go to procurement that was beyond the scope of everyone involved in the project. We needed design strong, we needed to know how things were going to interact with what was already there for systems and so forth, how to replace things, what actual specifications to items we needed to replace them with. And that is where Robert Hall Consulting had stepped in, and we were able to come up with an agreement with them through the library in the amount of $6,800 in order for them to provide consulting services to assist the town in going out for procurement. The town at this point, we have gone out to procurement, and we did get our bids back. And one of the reasons that this article is on here, the consulting fees to be paid out of the operating stabilization, is because although there was originally anticipated that was going to have to be paid from that original $47,000, that would have dropped the amount of funding that we had to actually purchase anything after this procurement had come back to less than or no more than just at this point being able to purchase the HVAC controls instead of being able to purchase more than one item. So therefore, in order to keep the $47,000 originally budgeted preserved to purchase any replacements for the HVAC system at the library, everyone seems to be on board with asking for the $6,800 from the library, the select board, and so forth to actually come out of the operating stabilization as a one-time expense.
You are going to be missed. Anybody in opposition? Questions?
Hi, Jennifer Roberge, 134 Brickyard Road. I just have a question. For $6,800, even at $100 an hour, that's 68 hours of consultation. I'm just curious what these people are going to do for 68 hours, roughly, of time.
Thank you.
So Heather Broderick, Town Administrator again. So we thought that question might come up. We tried to anticipate it a little bit. So what happened essentially was we had a set of plans that were drawn for all the components, HVAC system, and so forth of the entire library. The consultant had worked both with our building commissioner and various inspectors and also with the library trustees and so forth to actually design all of the plans. They actually spent numerous hours putting together the actual documents that go out to folks when they bid. One of the reasons they do that is usually as a chief procurement officer, I would sit there and put the specs together. And, you know, like, for instance, a table, you want a table that's oval with 4 legs. It's very easy to do. When you get into an HVAC system that you have HVAC controls for a 20-year-old building and you have to have an AC unit that is compatible with the controls, and then you have to add in the water heater and the boiler and so forth. These are all mechanisms and specifications that we are just not qualified to come up with without outside consulting. I know it seems like it's probably a lot of money. They did spend numerous hours and probably a good period of about 6 months with us working on this project, up until the time where we actually opened the bids last week and they helped us review them.
Thank you. That answer your question? Okay, good. Anybody want to speak in opposition? Any questions, comments? Seeing none, we're going to vote. All those in favor, and requires 9/10. Well, where am I? Oh, I dropped down. I dropped down to my comments. I thought 9/10 was only for past bills. 2/3. All those in favor of the motion under Article 18, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion under Article 18 passes unanimously, meeting our 2/3 requirement. May I hear a motion for Article 19, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to transfer the sum of $77.48 to pay prior year bills from fiscal 16 to Ben Meadows for disposable gloves. Said sums shall be taken from the operating stabilization.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
This article is recommended by the Finance Committee.
It is recommended by the Finance Committee.
I could. Heather Bergerius, Town Administrator. So this bill is attached in Attachment C. Sometimes what happens, every now and then something slips. We seem to be getting better every year. But generally, if the bill's not sent in the month of June or in time for our accountant to encumber the funds come July 15th, then we end up having to carry the bill forward to the next special town meeting, which is where we are tonight. And that is what it is, 7748.
Thank you. Anybody in opposition? Comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, the motion under Article 19, 9/10 vote, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion passes unanimously, meeting our 2/3 requirement. May I hear a motion for Article 20, please?
Mr. Moderator, move the town vote to transfer the sum of $7,834.34 to pay prior year bills from fiscal year 16 to MHQ for cruiser accessories. The sums shall be taken from the operating stabilization.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to address this, please?
Article 20 is recommended by the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends motion under Article 20. Who would like to? Yes.
Vicki Morrow, Town Accountant, Pomeroy Meadow Road. This bill was a bill for equipment for the new cruiser that we voted on last fiscal year. Originally, the amount was $44,623, which included the cruiser and some of the equipment. Back in May the chief and I sat down discussing why there was still money in this particular account. We both called MHQ. We both were assured that there was no more money that we owed them. We had no invoices, even though we had a purchase order for the equipment that gets put onto the cruisers. They assured us we had no bills. They could not send us a bill, and I can't pay a bill if I don't have an invoice. So subsequently, we decided to take the laptop that they purchased and new tires they needed for the vehicle and transfer it to this account because it was for the cruiser, which left a balance of $2,288.45. And then after the fact in November, or when we were purchasing the cruiser for this year, MHQ said, oh, by the way, you owe us a bill. It was totally their fault. They were in between computer systems and didn't have those invoices, and it kind of got lost through the cracks. So now we owe them the balance of that particular bill.
Thank you. Any other opposition comments?
Mike Bueller, 88 High. Just a question.
Yep.
Why is this coming out of operating stabilization and not capital stabilization?
Okay.
Heather Bergerius, Town Administrator. So probably about a month or so ago, the Capital Improvement Committee had met on a couple different articles, and that was one of them that they included in their package, and they did, in fact, move forward to approve taking out of capital. The only problem is that capital at this point in time is getting drawn down, so the current balance of capital is around $22,000 and some change, $22,000 to $24,000, and they also have another article that's coming up in a few minutes, and that article actually would take away the sum of what was left in capital. So the reason it's in operating is there wasn't any more money to pull from capital.
Thank you. That answer your question? Mike? Good. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, we're going to vote. 9/10 required. All those in favor of the motion on Article 20, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion passes unanimously, meeting our 2/3 requirement. May I hear a motion, please, for Article 21?
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to transfer the sum of $20,000 to purchase an HVAC system for the library. Said sum shall be taken from the capitalization stabilization.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
Article 20 is recommended by the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee recommends Article 21.
Okay. Heather Bergeritz, Town Administrator, the last article. Okay. All right, so this one goes back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. So $47,000 was originally appropriated at town meeting for the HVAC project. We just got bids in last week. The bids came in a lot higher than we had anticipated. For the lowest bidder who was qualified, their base bid, which just covered the HVAC controls, was in the amount of $38,881, which means based on that $47,000 appropriated, that's it. That's all we can get. The first alternate, which is something they desperately need and felt was more important than the other two components, was the AC. This only came in second to the HVAC controls, and the bid amount for this was $27,899. So when you combine these two projects together, they total $66,780. The reason this whole project was put forth in the first place to the Capital Improvement Committee and put forth as a full project, the HVAC controls, the AC, the boiler, the hot water heater, was because they hoped that everything going in at the same time would be put in by the same person, everything would be timely and all linked in together, and you wouldn't have to go back and stumble around in this stuff later. So when we got the bids back and they came out much higher, we were very shocked. We had already put this article together. But fortunately, if we were to, or if the town was to approve Article 21, it would bring the total amount of spending funds in that account line to $67,000, which is just above the total for the two projects as they're written here for the HVAC controls and the AC. The library does know they're going to have to go back out later for the boiler and the hot water heater. The good news is the hot water heater, at least under the current procurement laws, looks pretty good because it's under $10,000. The boiler would still have to go through a procurement process until the laws change because it's over $23,000.
Thank you. Anybody want to speak in opposition? Any questions? Any comments? 2/3 votes required. All those in favor of the motion on Article 21, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion on Article 21 passes unanimously. That concludes our business for tonight. I will entertain a motion now to dissolve our special town meeting. Second? All in favor? Opposed? This special town meeting is dissolved. Thank you, Ms. Eileen Kuchar, Interim Town Clerk, our Deputy Moderator, Carl Keener, our great counters, our officers in the back. May I have you, 3 of you, for the annual town meeting? Easthampton Media, Paul Fish, Ryan, thank you for your valued participation. Give yourself a big hand. Safe home.